spinny circle going. And you know what that means, folks. Yes,
We're live.
John C. and Wendy Lee are back with yet another exciting Money Moves. And today is Tuesday, August 15th. And you know what that means? Back to school. I'm sure you've seen social media covered with everybody's kids going to school for the first time, the last time, or some of them going off to juvie, maybe. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But we're going to be talking about three things. I don't care how old your kids are, even if it's kindergarten or pre-K, that you should be talking about now to get ready for college or trade school down the road. And we're going to be talking about that stuff, right, Wendy?
Yes.
So if you've got kids or you know people with kids, share them. Say, hey, go out to blackswanmoney.com, share the link. We're going to be talking about the three things you should be talking about now to get ready for that cost down the road. And we'll get started here in just a few seconds. All right, we are back, and I know you've got little children you've sent off to school. I just sent my youngest off to college, so my days of waving at the school bus go by are in the rearview mirror, but you've got that action going on. Your kids are in school, right? They've already started back.
They started back, and I got them in all places. I've got elementary school, middle school, high school, and college, so they're everywhere.
That's tough. I had 1 year where we had one in high school, one in middle school, and one in elementary school, and none of them were driving. And literally, I felt like Uber dad, right? Just going to and fro, and running the things. You get one dropped off, you got to go get the other. It's like for you parents with multiple kids, I feel you right here. I feel you. So it's
our goal in the next couple of weeks is get a license for Malachi. He's 18 and still doesn't drive, and I'm like, we got it.
No, man. It's 16. Yep. You're a driver now, so let's go drive. So anyway, so we're going to be talking about college. College is a big thing, and a lot of people wait till it's way too late to start planning, and then they're scrambling trying to figure it out, and it's panic time. Or they do the easy route, which is go rack up a bunch of student loans. And then your kids, when they get out of college, are racked with debt. And it's a never-ending thing, which can impact them buying their first car, their first home, a whole lot of things. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. The first thing, and a lot of people are going to blow me up on this, but ask yourself, is college even worth it, right? College, I think, trade schools have been given a bad name, but I'm telling you, I know my plumber, for example, he's making heavy six figures, right? And especially with the advent of AI, the landscape's changing. It's not what it used to be back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, where everybody needs to go get a college degree. Really, what are you going to do with that degree? Because so many people don't actually go into the field they study for. Right. All three of mine are in college, so I'm not knocking it, but it's not the only option,
right.
So.
Yeah. I had of my oldest ones, only one currently in college. One tried it for a hot second, but I even knew before he went in, my now 20-year-old, that like him going in, I'm like, it's not his mindset, right? My other one, Mikey, he's more like got to follow the path and get the career and all that. But my other one is Matthew's more entrepreneurial, and I discouraged college. He went anyway, but it only lasted a couple of months. But it's not for everybody. And I think it's, definitely, unless they want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, there's so many options right now outside of just going.
Yeah, if it's a technical degree, like, I've got a client of mine who's a chemist, things like that. And obviously, doctor or whatnot. Yeah. But when you start talking about general degrees, especially, right, or, basic business degrees, don't get me wrong, you definitely got to learn something. But my daughter right now, she's going into her junior year in graphic design. And I was asking her, I'm like, so what are they teaching about AI and the impact on the industry? And she's like, what do you mean? What are they teaching us? I'm like, well, how are they teaching you this stuff? And she's like, they're not mentioning it all.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
shocking.
you got to be kidding me. And so that to me, it's scary. It's, it's kind of, they're still doing the same old, same old. And she'll get a good degree. So I'm working with her. I'm like, okay, here's an AI class I want you to take that deals with graphic design. You need to learn this stuff to be ahead of the curve. But, kind of really having that conversation. And that's, we talk about the three things you need to have the discussion with, not just your child, but your family, yourself. Number one is how are, do we see our child now, little Johnny or little Susie at, 4 years old? It's kind of,
Right.
that's a hard decision. You had that conversation with your son about, college or no college, but you need to kind of discuss with them, what do they want to do later in life? And I would probably start having that conversation, once they hit their teens, not that they're going to make the final decision and stuff, but just to get a feel for where their head's at. What do you want to be, and do you think they'd be good at it or not? I mean, again, these are hard conversations, but you're there as a parent, not as their friend, and really coaching them. And everybody wants to see their kid do whatever they want. But if they're not happy, do you really want them in a career that they're unhappy and miserable at? No, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start thinking about, okay, I've got this college in front of me. What do we think it's going to cost? And, are you going to pay for none of it, all of it, some of it? And that's a personal conversation, but you've got to save for this. Me personally, at the time, my wife, her college was completely paid for, right? My college, I paid for pretty much my own. So it was kind of a middle of the road. I wanted the kids to have some skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So we made a deal with them where we pay for half, they pay for half. And, then you look at the various ways of how do you pay for it. And everybody knows about the 529, right? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's educational purposes only, but I'm going to educate you because I had a 529 for my oldest. It was okay. Mm-hmm. Not great. It was okay. And had he not gone to college, it would have been tough to get that money going somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. So, think about that too. You want liquidity, but, there's all kinds of, you got 529 plans, you got Coverdale plans, you got ESAs. One exciting one that we do all of the above, but one of the exciting ones that I really like is the $1 Million Baby, which is, a unique protected asset plan that can be used for college. And we've had events on that. If you're curious about that, hit us up. We'll let you know when the next one is, because I think we got one maybe next month. But you look at that and it's number one is liquidity. Number two is, does it get good growth and is it protected? And number three is, what if they don't go to college and they want to go to a trade school? What if they don't want to go to either and want to launch a business that you want to help support? Right.
Yeah, that's the only negative to those. I don't know about the Cordell or whatever, but I know the 529, that was a big thing when I set them up for my kids, is it can only go to college, right? For college resources. That's it. And so, for my one that at the time I set up for my only two kids at the time back then, but one of them decided not to go. So what happens with that money? So good question.
Yeah. And that's why I like the $1 Million Baby plan. Mm-hmm. And, several people do it. We do them as well, but it's all about the design and because it gives you the growth, the money for college. How do you do it? And how do you structure that? Right. So, number one is how much are you going to contribute and how are you going to contribute it? Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And so that's kind of the first thing and that's a big conversation that we're trying to cram in here in just a few minutes. But, you look at that. And then the next one is really looking at, well, what about the student loan options? And I'm here to tell you folks. So here's the deal on the student loan. This is the dark hidden underbelly about student loans. Number one, you cannot file bankruptcy on a student loan. Okay. You can't. You can file bankruptcy on a lot of other stuff, but not student loans. That's the deal the government made with the banks. So the banks know they're going to get their money from your child or from you, right? Mm-hmm. Period. They know it's going to happen. They'll wait because you can't go anywhere else. Number two, universities have realized that 18-year-olds can get as much money as they want for student loans. And the banks are like, okay, we'll give it to you because we know we're going to get it back from you before you die with interest. Mm-hmm. So the universities are thinking, well, why don't we get a piece of that? Why do you think college costs have gone up so much over the last 15 years? We can charge it. They're going to pay it because they want to go to this school or that school because of our sports program or because it's a party school, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So you really have to work with your kids to understand, are you going to a private school? Are you going to a state school? And I would actually do the research and find out what the success rate of public school, I went to a state university, I'm doing okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to a Harvard or Yale or some kind
Right.
of private institute, or you got a lot of private colleges out there that are charging like $40,000-$50,000. Now they have grants and stuff like that, which we'll talk about in a second. But what's the financial benefit? What is your ROI, your return on your investment for you and your child? And don't get me wrong, I was happy my kids went to college. I want them to have the college experience, right? But what I didn't want them to do was go into massive debt,
Right.
and that was the deal we made. Again, I said we pay for half, they can pay with half with, grants and scholarships. We'll talk about in just a second. Or secondly, the student loan route, or better yet, why don't you go get a job and work part-time for college? I waited tables. That's how I paid for college at this little restaurant, maybe some of you know, named Chi-Chi's. Restaurant, you remember Chi-Chi's?
I do.
So
Fried ice cream.
The fried ice cream, that's right. I waited tables there for 3 years in Indiana to get my undergrad degree.
No.
But
and also, like, on that note, one thing we're talking about with our my 18-year-old is community college for the first 2 years.
Yes.
Like, if you go in state, it's free.
Yeah.
And
well,
those first 2 years
on the state, right? Not every state is free.
But those first 3 years are the same. You're getting that core education regardless of what school you go to.
It's entry math. It's entry English 101, right? It's all the same, whether you're going to the local JC, the junior college, or the big state university. The big difference is, in most cases, the JC is free, right? So get that under your belt. That's where you're starting to really look at it. So it's an option, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I think a lot of kids, even if they don't plan on going on and getting a higher degree, the bachelor's degree, you can go and get an associate's or something like that and get a little of that college experience, and it doesn't break the bank, and they're not walking out of there with a bunch of student loans.
Right.
And I want younger people to understand that if, we had a friend that they ended up doing something else with the college money. So when it came time for college, there wasn't any money left. And so they were stressing, and it's like, go to JC, get that college experience, get a couple, see if you do well, see if you like it, and then go to student loans. So if you think about that, 4-year degree, you're only financing 2 years of it, which is about 50% of it, right? You work a little bit. So college is attainable for a lot of people if you just spend some time and think about it. It's just not, well, mom and dad aren't paying for it, so I guess I'm not going. That is not it at all, folks. There's a will, there's a way, right? So, kind of that second thing is looking at the student loan aspect. I will say this about student loans. And my son got a notice today. He's a freshman at University of Kentucky, right? He got a lot of scholarships, which again, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I've already gotten notices on private institutions, private banks wanting him to get loans from them for student loans. Okay. Here's the number one, John Cleaver, number one rule about student loans. If at all possible, avoid private institution student loans. Only get federal student loans. Here's why. Any type of forgiveness program that's going to come out will not impact banks, right? The banks are not going to give up on that interest. That's the sole reason they exist. Okay. Why do you think that this whole last Biden thing didn't get pushed through? The banks spend a lot of money on lobbyists, right? They donate a lot of money to both sides of the aisles, Democrats and Republicans. It's not one party or the other. They're both in it neck deep, right? They're not going to turn and bite the hand that feeds them.
Right.
So it ain't going to happen. Yeah. Whereas federal student loans, the Fed has complete control of. There are already student loan forgiveness programs out there and have been there for 20, 30 years since I was in college. Okay. And it's not just your nurses, teachers, and firefighters and first responders. There are a lot of we have a program right now that we work with a lot of our clients that have federal student loans that are dramatically or maybe even completely forgiven. Yeah. And while they're being forgiven, their payments are reduced quite a bit. So if you're curious about that, let us know.
Yep.
But
awesome.
Stick with the federal student loans. Stick with the federal student loans. But again, number one, figure out where you're going to go and kind of what that's going to cost and start planning for it. How are you going to divvy it up? And if you want to pay for your kids' college completely, that's your choice, right? It's your family decision. If you don't want to pay for any of it, that's your choice, your family decision, but at least help the child come up with a plan.
Right.
Maybe, what we just talked about, the JC route for a couple of years and this, that, or the other, get a job. avoid the student loans as much as possible. But I'm not saying avoid them altogether, right? And then so the second one is, are we going to use student loans? Try to keep it limited. My oldest just graduated with a 4-year degree, got a bachelor's degree at the University of Tennessee down in Chattanooga. The deal was scholarships, this, that, or the other, and he got some student loans. He walked out of there with under $20,000 in student loans for a 4-year degree.
Nice.
That is huge. I've got clients that have over $200,000 in student loans for a 4-year degree, and no, I'm not talking a medical degree. Okay,
Yeah.
A lot of these kids, they think it's like easy money. Oh, I don't have to pay it back. They're going to forget. No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're not. Right.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. You're going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, it's funny how many people that we talk to that don't feel like student loan debt is like real debt. I'm like, no, it's still debt, but I'll just add another degree and get some student loans and it's debt that, like you said, even if you go bankrupt, it's still there.
Yeah.
You got it forever.
I have a friend of a friend, kind of one of those deals where they had a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and they got laid off and they were trying to find a job and they'd been looking for 6 months, couldn't find one. Their solution,
get a doctorate.
I'm going to go back and get another master's degree.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So some people drink the Kool-Aid, man. It's like, why don't you go start a business?
Yeah.
Just saying, start a business. All right. And the third one, and I mentioned it a couple times, are the grants and scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many unused scholarships out there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you right now, a lot of people think, well, playing football, a scholarship. My son got a baseball scholarship, a partial, right? Academics are huge. That's how he paid for the other portion, he got a baseball scholarship, academic scholarships. My other two got academic scholarships. I'm in the state of Tennessee as you are as well. So they've got state scholarships, and a lot of states do that. But a lot of private organizations have scholarships, and start looking for them, towards the end of your sophomore year of high school. Start looking for them at the end of your freshman year of high school. But see what you can, qualify for, and apply, right? The worst that they're going to do is say no. You didn't win.
Yeah, I've heard several stories of people just, friends of mine whose kids, they were like, you have to come up, you have to pay for college yourself. And I challenge you to get it all paid for with scholarships. And there was this one family at our church that their daughter went through and applied. She spent a whole year and committed to apply for a scholarship every day for the year, and wound up not just covering the cost of her college, but actually getting more money back in her pocket.
There you go. Getting paid to go to college.
Yeah.
So
it's doable. Folks, it just takes work, right?
It takes work. And that's the key right there. And you as the parent need to drive them, not physically drive them, but, drive them, push them to get this done. Yeah. And that's why, again, that's just my personal decision. My kids had to have some skin in the game. And so it's one of those things that, help them, but don't just do it for them. Help them do it. Right. Teach them to fish. Don't just give them the fish kind of thing. It's biblical. Right. But, looking at the different scholarships, and I will tell you this, and I don't know if it's still accurate today, but I know for the longest time, the number one unused sports scholarship out there, where literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of free schooling are not used, female golf. Right. Women's golf.
Yeah.
Number one unused scholarship out there. So if you've got a young girl, and there's some of you dads out there taking your sons out to the golf course and stuff like that, take your daughter. Okay, and get them on the golf course and show them the basics, and you'd be surprised. Get them playing in high school, and who knows, maybe they're going to get a full ride golf scholarship too, because there are a ton of them. And I don't care.
Says that's her thing. She wants to be a golfer. I don't know where it came from, but she's like, I'm going to play golf. That's my sport. And like 3 people said, good, she'll get good college scholarships.
Seriously, it's crazy. I mean, but there are a lot of sports scholarships. And I'm just talking, my son, again, plays baseball, my youngest, and everybody's like D1. I don't care if it's D1, D2, and some of them have great, even private schools. Like private schools, you can't get, quote unquote, grants and things like that, but they have grants and things like that. There's you can't get scholarships like, partial ride or whatever, but they do have like alumni scholarships and stuff like that to help offset that cost. So again, ask. What are the ways that we can do this? How do we want to do it? And start working with your student early. I mean, seriously, sophomore year. And if they want to go to the military, great. My brother graduated from the Naval Academy. He had a $250,000 scholarship from the U.S. Marines. Ended up getting accepted to the Naval Academy. Had to give the Marine scholarship back, even though he ended up in the Marines. Why? Because the Naval Academy is free for kids that enroll. Same thing with the Air Force Academy and I believe West Point too. And so you've got those options. So there's a lot of options out there. If you work with your child and help them, and don't just expect them to do it, and don't wait till, well, it's March and you're a senior, you better start looking at that stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. And, you know, but I still ended up getting a scholarship. And so it paid for my tuition and my books. And so it wasn't a full ride, but it still helped help offset the cost. So if you want to go to college, great. If you want to go to trade school, fantastic. And don't discourage your kids if they want to go to trade school, because they can make some great money doing that. And, you know, fortunately in America, we got wrapped up in, oh, trade schools are bad. You know, you want to go to college. Now everybody's going to college. I'm going to tell you right now, most bachelor's degrees are a dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're paying a hell of a lot more than a dime to do it. So, you know, have the discussion, have a planning conversation. We had a little fun with this today, but, you know, again, just to recap, number one, decide where you're going to go and some strategies to pay for it, and have this discussion with your child, right? Even at a younger age, right? Number two, do not forget, you know, to look at the different student loan options, but don't count on 100% student loans. That is the worst thing you could do for your child. Mm-hmm. And number three, do not forget that free money out there, people. There is a lot of it. From $500, $250, a couple $1,000. There's a lot of them out there. Mm-hmm. And you'll find out that college is actually attainable, as is trade school. So again, thank you for being here today. We're going to wrap it up. Wendy, anything to say on that closing?
Nope. Good stuff. Good info.
All right. Good deal. Well, help your kids, have the conversation with them. And again, don't mire them in a bunch of debt so they're walking out and they don't even get to keep their paycheck. So
that's right.
All right, everybody, have a great week. Again, middle of August. Wow, this year's flying by. So we will see you next Tuesday on Money Moves. And if you've got a topic you'd love to hear, please let us know what that is. And don't forget to show a little love. Click that little subscribe button down below, and please share this on your social media. We, you know, again, help us out with the algorithms and stuff on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're trying to grow this channel, and hopefully you'll find it valuable. And don't forget to share it with a friend. Thanks, everybody.